I hope it's here. Namaste. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. Welcome to my channel. Today, I decided to come on and respond to Anna, Astral Lady Tarot Travels tarot cliche tag. This was so much fun. If you look in the description box below, there are many TarotTubers who have done a response to this video, and if nothing else, it should make you feel wonderful that you are in a community where we all embrace the tarot. And I have had so much fun watching your videos. I commented on some of them, not all of them. And it just really, if nothing else, I hope this tag brings us all together, making us feel more normal and connected than cliche, because I don't feel cliche. I feel very me. I love all of these things. And there have been several of you that added things as well too, and I've added a few things to the mix. And so let's go through some of these tarot cliches, because I don't know, I feel like if you want to embrace any of these, go and embrace them, because it is only going to add to your foundation of being a reader. It's going to make you feel more comfortable. It's going to make you feel just you. And so every single one of these things, take time to make them feel uniquely yours. Hello to Joel. All right, so let's start with the first one. And the first one is, do you have more than one version of a deck? Hello there, Hannah, welcome. And this is a very interesting question. I believe Anna focused primarily on RWS versions of the RWS deck. I have a couple that are on my table right now. I have about 12, maybe 14 decks that are versions of the RWS. And I'm not talking about clones. These are versions of Pixie's art. And there's two that I'm using primarily now, two that are my favorites. This one is the CS Tarot, Conrad Stein Tarot. I love the shift in colorations. This is the version of the back that I'm using. And so this one I use a lot for teaching. I just like the coloration. It's not shiny. It's lovely linen. It shuffles well. It shows up great. I do need to make a box for this though. This one does not have a box. The other one that I tend to use, and I've been in the process of photographing because the colors on this one are just gorgeous, is the Universal Weight Tarot. And this one, yeah, I really like the colors. So this one was recolored by Mary Hanson Roberts. And there's just something about the colors of this one that really appealed to me. I have multiple variations of the Centennial. I have the one in the tin. I have the borderless one. I have the extra large one. I have lots of those. So what other decks do I have multiple versions of the same deck? And I made a list. So of course, many of the Tarot de Marseille decks. I have a couple of Dodals. I have, yeah, so the different variations of the Tarot de Marseille, I do have some of those. And as far as the Thoth, I have a mini that came in the very first set that I got. And then after that, I think all I have left is one greenie and it's not trimmed. Okay, so other decks that I have multiple versions of the same deck. I have, and this is really funny, I have the first and second edition of Journey of the Sacred Bee, neither of which are in my possession. The second one will be coming before the first one. I've told the story about my box in the US that I haven't been able to get to since March 2020. So the first edition is there, and the second edition hopefully will be coming soon. I have the mass, and I'll put on the big, I'll show you the cards in the screen later. The White Sage Tarot. So this is the indie version of the White Sage Tarot. And I also have, why don't I switch this so you can see, and you've got a sneak preview of some of the things I'm going to talk about too. So this is the indie version, which came in a 2-part box of the White Sage Tarot. And then when the US Games version in a tin came out, I got that deck. If I ever go back and start doing yoga teacher trainings, I am going to build this deck into doing yoga teacher trainings. It's one of the reasons that I really like it. Hello, Danielle. I feel like I haven't seen you in ages. Namaste. Namaste. Okay, so what else do I have? I have the Wild Unknown Tarot. I was gifted a first edition by one of you lovely people. So I have a first edition of the Wild Unknown Tarot, and there are a few color changes to about 4 cards or so. And then I have this mass market version. So there's that one. And then what else do I have? The Shadowscapes Tarot. So the Shadowscapes Tarot, I have the Czech version, which are larger cards. I'll just hold them up. And then I have my trimmed version of, let's move this one. So this is the Czech version. And I swear, I know one day we are going to get a anniversary edition. There just has to be an anniversary edition of this deck. And so you can see the difference in size. So this is the trimmed version of the standard deck. I left on the bottom borders. And the colors are very, very similar in these 2 decks. So yeah, so I have multiple versions of not multiple, I have two versions of the Shadowscapes Tarot. And then what else? There are the Victorian Fairy Tarot. I have the Russian version and the French version. I do not have the English version. Dust to Onyx I have, which is not on the table. I have the travel version and the full version. The travel version is actually one of those decks. It's in my box in the US. The Mystic Fairy Tarot. I have the borderless and the bordered. And I have the Pagan to show you here. So another deck that I have, oopsie, I just banged my computer. So this is a really interesting deck. When I purchased this, now why did I purchase this deck? I'm trying to remember what was intriguing me. Okay. Still have a little white book. I have the little white book in there and all the extra cards because I was going to give this version away because I have the other version. There was something about so this is a contemporary deck. Let me turn it this way so you can see it. It is a contemporary deck. And there's a lot of ritual, Wiccan ritual in here, pagan ritual. And I love this moon card so much. But the little white book does not explain any of the rituals. And so when I saw, now this was I think a couple years ago. Oh, this is going to be hard. I got so much stuff on the table and that candle's in the way. Okay. So when I saw this version, when this came out, this is in a medium size, not really large box, came out. Now, what year was this? And so this one, of course, has a large guidebook and explains the journey of the witch through all of the traditions and practices. And so then I got some insider information to the deck. And this one came out in 2019. And the thing about this deck is that it is borderless. So that's why I was going to give away this one. And so it'll definitely be a part of the next time I do a giveaway. So yeah, so that's a Pagan Tarot by Gina M. Pace. Is that right? No. Yes, I'm sure it's Gina. Yes, Gina Pace. Okay. Yeah. So why do you have different versions? Well, I just explained to you why I have different versions. The Mystic Fairy Tarot, I was having a really hard time with the bordered version. I felt like those naughty little fairies were, you know, playing with me all the time, and they were so cheeky, and I don't know. Anyway, I got the borderless version and decided, oh no, those little fairies need to stay inside those borders. And so sometimes it's just curiosity. And especially if it's not an expensive deck, then it is, yeah, something that I love to do. I have also Trionfi della Luna. I have a couple of different versions of that deck as well too. And on my wish list is a newer version of the Onasa Yaus. I have two, and this is in the next category. So I have two copies of the 4th edition, which I love the colorations of, but I wouldn't mind actually having the different shaped green version. It just has a slightly different energy. And also the mini version of the Lily White Tarot. This is one of my all-time, this is the Visalia Millsville, one of my all-time favorite decks. And I would love to have the mini version. And actually, you know what? If I was made of money, I would buy many copies of this deck and give it away to everybody that I love, because it's one of my favorites for sure. Okay, so Sadhana, I see my name in capitals. Sadhana, I'm spotting Satya Sai Baba incense on your table. Yes, we are going to talk about incense. You spy it over here, right? Yes, because this is one of my favorite incenses. Okay, so yes, you can start to play a game about what you see on the table here, because I'm going to talk about pretty much everything that's on the table today. The next one was backup decks. Okay, so this is kind of embarrassing, actually. I have backup decks of at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 10 decks. And some of these have a story. This is the Wildwood Tarot. And the day that I was trimming it on my back deck, the moon card went flying out between the cracks in the wood on the decking, lost it. So I do not have a moon card for this one. So this trimmed version I use on my altar, specifically for the altar. And then I went and purchased another copy. And then this newer version is a matte version. And I decided not to trim it. I like the bigger cards. And so, yeah, so I have a back, I guess it's not really a backup, it's kind of different. What else do I have? The Chemonet Tarot, which is a deck that I have been working with for since, I'm going to say, I've been working with it for a while. I have 3 copies of it because I just thought it might go out of print. One is trimmed, one is not trimmed, and one is one that I'm going to gift to somebody at one point. The Druid Craft, I decided to repurchase it after I trimmed it because I learned that I have the Druid Craft is almost always on my table. So after I trimmed the Druid Craft, I learned that, do I have a little chopstick? Yes, I do. I read it, that there's some medicine in the borders. Now, this medicine for sure is in the plant and the animal oracle deck, but this border here has some energy in it. So I decided to repurchase it. And I also have the version, I have a backup copy that has, and of course I'm showing you the naked penis card. I have the version, I have a copy that is not trimmed. Yeah. Onasa Yaus, I told you already, 2 copies of the 4th edition. The Llewellyn, I have an untrimmed and a trimmed. The Marielle 1st edition, I have a trimmed and an untrimmed. 2 copies of the Marshmallow Marseille. I have 2 copies of the Numinous. One of those, for sure, I will give away at some point. That's a 1st edition, because I believe the new Numinous is matte, but I believe the new Numinous was printed on, I don't have it on my table, but I believe the new version of the Numinous is printed on matte cardstock, the same cardstock as that lovely Oracle deck that came out last year. So eventually that will be there. Okay, what else do I have? Tarot of the Hidden Realm. I have an embarrassing number of copies, some of which are in my daughter's hands. I really find there was a period of time where I had a bunch of 20-something-year-olds wanting to learn tarot, and they were all kind of earthy, spiritual types, and it was just the perfect deck to teach tarot with. So I have multiple copies of that. The Way Home, I have a backup. So that's it. That's it. Next one, tarot tattoo. You know what? I don't have any tattoos. And it was only recently that I started thinking about getting a tattoo. And if I got a tattoo, for sure it would have a spiritual, alchemical, elemental meaning of some kind, but I have no tattoos. So yeah. Tea. Do I drink tea? Well, I often have tea on my table. I always have water. Always have water. And I do drink coffee. But as for tea, summer, I'm going to tell you my favorite. So I lived in Japan for many, many years, and they drink in the summer cold mugi cha. It's very hard to get here. I haven't been able to get to a Japanese supermarket in ages, but mugi cha comes in a large tea bag, and you percolate put boiling water over a whole bunch and let it cool. So mugi cha is my absolute favorite. I love a cold oolong as well too. Certain blends of teas. There's a couple of different tea crafters that I love. They're how they blend. It's like a synergy of tea. If I'm using a bagged tea and drinking it all the time, Bengal spice is one of my favorites. And I guess I have to mention my daughter. My daughter's always blending teas from different herbs and things. They're not my favorite. They're a bit medicinal. Yeah, and I do love a good old black tea with milk. So yeah, I love tea. I love tea. And tea just makes me feel calm, I suppose. It's very calming and cleansing. Like when I'm teaching Reiki or something, I'm drinking tea all the time, all day long, clear tea. So yeah, so that's the tea thing. Okay, so I want to go to crystals next, and I put a few on my table, and I know I have shared some of these with you before, but for me, I definitely use crystals for, I place them on my decks. I love this piece of chrysocolla. This one actually might have a little bit of malachite in it. I tend to match crystals with tarot decks, and I place them on the tarot deck to cleanse them. I do that a lot. The other thing I use, and some of these I've shared, is I use palm stones all the time. So these are 2 shungite palm stones. I tend to have them in pairs, and I usually put them in my pockets. And I use these for grounding. When I'm doing a lot of readings, I love to have something that I can just hold on to. So palm stones are really kind of important for that. I really, I'm going to do that one last. When I started doing some shamanic training, I learned we did a lot of work with smoky quartz. And so I find I really connect with the power of smoky quartz, and I have a couple of pieces of that in my collection. And this larger one, yeah, it's got a lot of good energy. It's always on my main altar, which is over there. Altars are another question. This one was gifted to me by a fellow student, fellow shaman student. I do not consider myself a shaman. I'm not a shamanic practitioner. I'm a inquirer. I'm an inquirer of shamanic practices. I do journey. I do practice some of the shamanic practices, but I don't feel comfortable. I'm not at that stage yet. I really need to do more training. And crystals. I got so much stuff here on the table. I have so many crystals in my house. I have crystals all over my house. I have a ginormous rose quartz piece that is the heart of the house. It sits at the center. I have crystals for sleeping. I have crystals for healing. I actually do teach about crystals. I've taught some crystal courses. This is a lovely piece from one of my daughters that came from Guatemala. I have lots of, yeah, so people have gifted me crystals over the years. I wear a lot of crystal bracelets. This was one that was infused by a very great Reiki master for me. And then this selenite piece here. So this sits on my windowsill. And so my windowsill, I don't usually close the blinds. Where I live is kind of private. And so what I do is when I take off my bracelets at the end of the day, I just put my bracelets over this so that they can clear. And so this selenite is always either in the sun or the moonlight. It's a very lucky piece of selenite. And then also in that same window, I have a quartz cluster. And so I use this for clearing all of my jewelry. And so when I take off, like if I've got a necklace on or a crystal mala or something, then I lay it over that for clearing or recharging. So yeah, so crystals are definitely a big part of my life. I have them all over the house. I have them in the corners of the rooms, on the floor. My yard is gridded. Crystals, crystals, crystals everywhere. So yeah. Do I have a favorite crystal? No. I love crystals, and I like learning about crystals. So in extension, and part of this, my shamanic journey has to do with rocks. I have a lot of rocks in my house. I have vases and jars of rocks that I've picked up here and there and everywhere. And what I've made a bunch of these. So I used to just stack them, and then it would drive me crazy. And part of my mindfulness was when they would fall over, I would place them back on top of each other. But a few of them I decided to glue together. And so I have these little Inukshuks that I have created, or stacked rocks. I have rocks, so many rocks in my house. And then nobody talked about pendulums, which really surprises me. And I don't know if this is a tarot cliche or not, but we get a lot of yes, no questions. So this is a crystal, clear quartz Merkaba. This is one of my favorite ones, and it has a nice short chain. And one of the things that I teach when I'm teaching about pendulums is to hold about 6 inches, and this one is not too long, so it's really nice. This one I use a lot. So this one I use a lot when I'm working too. This is aventurine. So sometimes when I'm asked yes or no questions and I'm doing a lot of readings all at the same time, what I'll do is I'll use a pendulum to kind of speed up the process or confirm the process. So yeah. And I have a lot. I have a lot of pendulums, and I'm going to show you one more in just a second. And then, okay, here's another one. This is definitely a favorite. I have quite a few Shiva lingams, and this is a rock that I love to meditate with. I love to sit and hold. I love the way they feel in my hands. They have such a grounding energy, and a lot of people associate the Shiva lingams with masculine energy, but I don't. I really feel the integration of the energy. Shiva does not live without Shakti. They exist together, and I just feel that connection. And this one here, right? It has that almost even division of the darker color and the lighter color. I do not have a blue one. I would love to acquire a blue one. And then I think the next question, well, I'll do the altar thing now because I want to show you this. So I'm going to turn it. So I have altars everywhere in my house as well too. I think I did one altar video, and here's a Shiva lingam pendulum that's hanging on this fairy door, and this little piece of pyrite just fell off. But I have like elemental altars, I have ancestral altars, I have altars for like I don't know, like I've got altars everywhere. I have altars in the garden. I like creating sacred space, And so sacred space is really important to me. I use it for calling in energy. I use it for centering. It helps me to focus, right? Keeps me there. Oh, I see Hannah had to leave. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to carry on. So altars, definitely altars everywhere. Pendulums. Okay, so the next one is tarot books. I have an abundance. I probably have 30 or 40 tarot books, not including the books that come with tarot decks. Why? Well, I have so many tarot decks. So for example, why would you purchase this book when you have the large guidebook that goes with Shadowscapes Tarot? Well, this one is written in the voice of the artist, Stephanie Puy-Moon Law, whereas the guidebook that comes with the deck is written by Barbara Moore. I'm going to have to move some things here so I can show you this and some other books. And here Stephanie talks about her artwork. She talks about the, and also the beauty of this book for the majors, you get a full like letter size paper of the major arcana. And so you can see it out really close. It's just a really, really beautiful book. So sometimes, and this isn't like the Patrick Valenza book that goes with the Deviant Moon. It just adds so many, many layers. And that's why I would purchase an additional book about a particular deck. If I am, so one of the things that I'm studying right now is to really look at the different aspects of the tree of life. And so I don't have this deck, I just have the book. And this is a Thoth-based deck that has little different associations of the path, where the majors are on the path on the tree of life. So I'm reading and studying this book. And then the book of Seychet is the book for the Rosetta Tarot, which is more closely associated with the Thoth Tarot. And then I do have some other Thoth books as well too. So when I'm studying a deck or studying a system, I like to get multiple voices. And the same when I was studying the Tarot de Marseille. You know, I'm not just going to read one point of view, because there are many points of view. And one of the books that I go back to again and again is the Jodorowsky book. I think this is a great reference to have. It's one that I pull out all the time. And then for RWS, my goodness, I have so many, many, many books. I don't know if I have a favorite. They all kind of have a different point of view. They all do different things, and I read many of them. So my tarot shelves are available. Not that my tarot bookshelf is available all the time. I use it as a library. It's not something that I put away. And if I am not using a book, or if I buy a book and I don't like it, I give it away. So for sure. Dory, hello, welcome. All right, tea, crystals, pendulums, tarot books, tarot journal. Okay, they're kind of private. Hey, this is a private thing to show. So when I do a major reading for myself, I write about it in a tarot journal. I can show you this one. This was my 2020. So this was 2020 year ahead spread. And so this year I did I cut out I printed the cards. If you go to the art gallery for this deck, this was an easy one to do because the pictures were easily accessible. I didn't have to photograph all the cards. So sometimes I do that. But that's not what I wanted to show you. That page just opened up. I often use my tarot journal when I'm trying to make sense of something. And if there's a system in a deck, I try to figure out what that system is. Actually, I've got lots of readings in this one too. One of the things I don't do is journal about. I don't journal about client readings. I tend to take photos, and I also record them a lot, so those are stored in a different way. Okay, what I wanted to show you, I cannot find. Isn't that interesting? So I use tarot journals for studying, and like I said, oh, here's a page. Oh, okay. Got a couple of examples here. These are both oracle examples, but I do this for tarot as well too. So when I was studying Kim Kranz's Animal Spirit, I wrote down all the animals in their order from 1 to 14, and then I was trying to see and make associations. So I use it for studying and making sense of decks. And then over on this page, so this is the major arcana, and then I was trying to see if there was an animal for every major arcana. I'm not sure that I even finished this. But here, for example, temperance is associated with the camel, and the phoenix is associated with justice and different things like that. So I tend to enter things, hi Sarah, into my journal when I am studying. And then, yeah, this is the Amethyst Oracle. Oh, I remember. Okay, so I don't know if you know this oracle deck, but this oracle deck has a bunch of symbols. So I know the symbol for air. I did not know, can you even see this? I did not know a lot of these symbols. So this is a symbol for autumn. And some of these symbols that she made up. So I wanted to figure out if they were actual alchemical or scientific symbols, or whether some of them that she were made up. So that's a tea bag. That's something that the creator made up. And so when I'm trying to figure out a deck, I definitely write about it in a tarot journal. And I have these journals. I have a bunch of these journals. Like when I was starting my Wildwood journey, I made a bunch of circles in my journal and tried to make sense of it that way before I started, before I am ever going to talk about it on my YouTube channel. So yeah, so the journals have a couple of different purposes. Yeah. Okay, so shuffling, if you know me, you know I love shuffling. Shuffling is an important part of the process, and certain decks shuffle. I'm going to move these pendulums out of the way. Certain decks just shuffle really, really well. Ooh, here's something else. I just noticed this piece of shungite here. So this is a little piece of polished shungite. I have shungite on my modem. I have shungite in different places where there is an excessive amount of electromagnetic frequency in the house. So yeah. And tonight's full moon, if it's clear, there's going to be stuff going outside. This is Pagan Otherworlds. I learned to riffle shuffle when I was about 6 years old. And when a deck shuffles beautifully, so you get every other card fitting together, and my feathers are going to go crazy. I do love to back bridge my cards. It does make a lot of wind. It depends what's on the table. I have only ruined a deck once, and that is because it was just too cardboardy, and that was a lesson learned. I would never do that again with a cardboardy deck. But for me, a deck that shuffles well, and then also cutting is important. Like, there was maybe because I didn't ask a question. When I cut a deck, and I usually cut left hand to the left, it's a magnetic energy, and it's like the deck. Yeah, that one did it. It's like the deck wants to split there. And I love cutting and shuffling and all of that. I don't mind overhand shuffling. It's not my favorite thing to do. I have a connection with Japanese culture that goes way, way back. And I just love the way that Japanese people shuffle. They shuffle in this direction really, really quickly. And they're so good at overhand shuffling that way. I'm better at riffle shuffling. Okay, so that's another tarot cliche. Fairy lights. So the next one is fairy lights. Definitely fairy lights. I have fairy lights in my bedroom. I have fairy lights on my altar. Many of the rooms have fairy lights. I have fairy lights right there on a, ooh, I wonder if I can show you. No, probably can't show you. I have fairy lights on all kinds of things, like around plants and different places. So it just creates ambiance. And I don't think it has anything to do with tarot. It just is, it's about the ambiance of tarot. And I love all of these things. And if these are tarot cliches, I'm totally cool with that because they make me feel, I don't know, they make me feel good. They create an environment, they create an experience. And when I'm doing readings and stuff, I love to be in that energy of all of these things. Swan Spirit, your favorite pendulum? Yeah, Shungite is very, very beautiful. And what Swan Spirit is saying here too is it's important because the shuffle, it's like the deck knows when it's time to stop shuffling. And I listen to that. It's just part of the process of doing a reading. The shuffling is an integral part of that. And I happen to enjoy it very, very much. Okay, so what else we got here? Candles. Candles, yes, most definitely. So the candle that's on the table now, I'm going to say I make candles. So that's just a melted beeswax poured into a glass container. I also I make candles in molds and I gift them. So I make pillars, and at Christmas time I make trees for everybody. So large trees, mini trees. One of my favorite molds, I wish I could get a bigger version of this one. This is a little beehive mold. So yeah, so I make candles. I also fill my own tea lights. And I probably will also start using soy because of I'm fully aware of the scarcity of beeswax and the issues of using beeswax. And so I'm thinking of switching to soy. So that definitely might happen. Ooh, I have another deck to show you here, maybe if we have time. Okay, so candles. Yes, yes, yes. I love candles. And what is this? So part of the candle thing is that I want to have all of the elements represented on my table or on my altar. There needs to be water, there needs to be fire and smoke. And so there's something so let's go from the bottom up, something earthy. So that is the crystals. Sometimes there is a plant there as well too. Sometimes if it's a cut plant, it's in water. So then the water is there. The water may be represented by shells. I live near the coast. And so there's often something from the beach that's on my altar. So earth, water, fire. Fire is candles. And then we have air. So air is usually sound. I have singing bowls and bells. And then ether is smoke. And so that's why the incense is on the table. And I have a few different, this is the incense I burn most of the time. To me, it has a very pleasing smell. I just bought this one. Did I even open it? This is a new brand for me, and they have quite a few different ones, and I really loved this particular sandal one. So there's also a rainforest one that I really like as well too. So incense is part of the practice for me of awakening my altar. So when I come to the altar in the morning, I light a candle, I ring a bell or a singing bowl, and then I take smoke and I use smoke around the altar. So I do smudging. I smudge my crystals. I smudge my jewelry. I do lots of smudging, and I have lots and lots of sage wands that are made by daughters and friends and gifted. I really have to buy those kind of things. I do use Palo Santo, but I use it sparingly, and I have no intention of buying. This one's quite blackened. I'm not sure about the harvesting of Palo Santo, so until I find out more about that, I'm probably not going to purchase any more Palo Santo. I think awareness of all these things are important, especially because I have a daughter who's living and protecting the trees right now in British Columbia. That's a whole other story, but just in a nutshell, there's a blockade in a ancient forest in British Columbia. It's called Fairy Creek. It's on Vancouver Island in BC. And there's horrific stuff that's going on right now. There's some wonderful people there who are protesting and trying to keep the loggers away from these ancient 300 to 800-year-old trees. And there's police that are coming in. There's all kinds of violence and danger, and it's just an awful situation. And one of my daughters is there right now. Her partner was arrested, so he can't go back. But believe me, my awareness of the consequences of our indifference with the environment has really been amplified this summer. And also because we had this enormous heat wave this summer, I'm starting to really reflect on the consequences for cutting down the trees and destroying the rainforest in relation to these climate changes. So this is just really making my throat close up here. I just want to go and be with them. But this morning I went to my tree. So I'm going to say my tree is probably around, and it's not my tree, it's God's tree. It's the planet's tree is about, I actually have no idea. So the tree, I can't hug the tree. So I'm going to say, and I'm about 5'9". So the tree is in diameter. Yeah, in diameter is about 10. I'm going to say 10 feet. 10 feet in diameter. And so I just sat there this morning and I prayed at the tree, and I asked the tree to protect the children. And there's adults there as well too that are there, adult children, because I see those roots of that tree going down through where I live, all the way under the bodies of water to where these people are, and we're all connected. So, yeah. Back to, I see Joel might have a question. Ether. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between air and ether. And I can only talk about this from a yogic perspective. So air and in chakra psychology, the element of air is here at the heart space. And anahat chakra, anahat refers to unstruck sound. And so the element of sound and the idea of unstruck sound is connected to air. We use bells in yoga, primarily bells for sound. Singing bowls. Smoke is connected to ether. Ether being everything that connects everything. smoke, we smoke, smoke makes us realize the space in between everything, I think, right? Because smoke is able to travel in between all of the particles. But Joel's question was dripping essential oils in a candle. Okay, so where do essential oils come in? It's a really good question, Joel. Essential oils are, I think, a whole different, essential oils could be a tarot cliche as well, too. I put essential oils on my body before I do readings. Okay, so essential oils stimulate smell, right? And smell is connected with the root chakra. It helps us to ground. It stimulates memories. And essential oils, different essential oils have different frequencies. So for example, if you're using something like vetiver, it's going to make you feel really, really grounded. If you use an essential oil like rose, it has a super high frequency and is going to connect with a higher chakra. So while essential oils trigger primarily the sense of smell, they have this potent quality for activating different chakras and different energies. So I don't really see essential oils connected to one particular element. And I see we have, hello, Shannon. I see. If you don't want to use smoke to represent the ether, okay, to represent the ether. Yeah, so anything that, for sure, Joel. But if I was wanted specifically to represent ether, I would use a high frequency one. So I use helichrysum and rose when I want to tap into a really high frequency, because ether is a high frequency. So yeah. And also using a symbol like the pentagram, because the pentagram connects all of the elements. So that is definitely going to connect to ether, and also all of the statues. So anything connecting to the god or goddess is definitely going to connect us to the element of ether and spirit as well too. So that's another thing. And I'll just segue right into these little amortis, because that was one of, somebody added also gods and goddesses. I've skipped something, but I'll go back. Okay, so I have, because I'm a yogi, both an aspirant and a teacher, I do have several statues in various places, and they all have intention behind them. Durga, so the Durga, 32 Names of Durga mantra is part of my practice. I resonate deeply with Durga. And so this is one that is on an altar it's actually in my bedroom. And I have a lot of different statues around. I don't tend to have them on my tarot table, but what I do have is an altar that's just behind my tarot table. So behind my camera, there's an altar there. And so that energy kind of embraces my tarot experience. And on that altar, I believe I only have the Nataraj, so the dance of Shiva. That's the only one that's there. The other ones are in my personal space in my bedroom, because I have sacred space in my bedroom as well too. Okay. So anything that connects you with spirit is going to connect with the element of ether. All righty. Hello to everyone in the background who's not chatting as well too. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we did tarot journal, shuffle, fairy lights, candles. Yes, designated tarot space. I have created this space because the room, so I used to have a room, but a daughter came home. So I've designated this space, and sometimes I have to break down the space and set it up again, but I always set up here. So yes, to designated space. I don't tend to read at the kitchen table or on my bed or other places. I tend to just do readings here. And I have 2 tables here. Sometimes if I have a client reading in the house, I've got a round table that I use as well too. Yeah. So that incense, smudge, crystals, yes, check, check, check. Altar, check, check, check. Oh, okay. So we were talking about altar space and other things. So the other thing is feathers. So this feathers also represent the element of air. So I tend to pick them up. This is a heron feather, which is going to make its way to a friend in India next time I go. It was specifically, I was meditating on energy of her sister who's on the other side. These are all feathers that I have picked up. This is an owl. And so when I pick up feathers, it's about connection. It's about connection to these amazing creatures who I share space with. This particular wand was a gift from a fellow Reiki master. I've told the story of this feather many times. More recent feather. This is the bird that fell out of the tree when I fell out of the swing. And this is from the same bird. So different parts of the bird. Yeah. So feathers for sure. And I think feathers and smudge wands are part of the tarot cliche as well too, because they help to move the smoke around. But I also like them just to have around. They really make me feel connected to air. And I suppose, so, you know, if you watch me all the time, you've heard me say this before, but one of the reasons that I connect so much to the Lily White Tarot is that in the element of swords, the sigil, not the sigil, the symbol for the element of swords, let's see if we can find a court card. Let's find a court card. Well, here's an example. So here's the 5 of swords. So we have incense. We have incense in all of the swords. And so the sigil is a great winged bird. I think it's an eagle, but the symbol is incense, which is really cool. So here in the 3 of swords, not only do we have 3 swords, but we have 3 incense sticks. And so my point here is that the element of air is most closely associated to the element of ether. And so in answering Joel's question, I think we can work with these 2 elements. Like both of these elements, they're kind of linked together. And I think one leads us to the other. Next, cat. A lot of tarot people have cats. I don't have a cat, but I have an Amber, my dog. So my dog is often disturbing my videos and participating in my videos or making noises or smells underneath my table, banging my table. And then there's 2 more, last 2. Okay, let's move these feathers out of the way. All right, so the next one, I'm not sure which one of you added. For those of you that came in late, down below, there's in the description box, I've listed quite a few other people who have done this tarot tag. The next one is tarot bags and altar cloths. For decks that do not have a small box, right? Decks that have a large box, I tend to either make a box or make a bag or find a bag that suits the energy of the deck. I don't like to put a deck in a bag that doesn't match the energy of the bag. And this is a bag from Baba Studios. It's got a butterfly on it. And so this one, there's a few different decks that I would put in here. I love this deck, this bag. And I wish I could, this one I bought on Etsy. I also have a reading cloth from this lady. It's silk as well too and hand embroidered. And I like it because it's small. One of my pet peeves with tarot bags is they're too big. they're like, they fit more like an oracle deck. And I like this one because it's smaller and it's got all these beautiful, yeah. So this one is well used. This is another one, like Bubba Studios makes great bags. That's from Bubba Studios. What else do I want to show you? I can't really show you because some of them are. And so here's another thing, right? So for example, the 5-cent tarot with the Kickstarter came with this gorgeous bag, but I don't use this bag because it came in a great box. So it's kind of a waste. And I'm not sure that I would put a deck with a name on it that didn't, you know, I wouldn't mismatch. I like to match the energy. Like this is a really pretty bag. It's a quilted bag. One side there's a dream catcher, the other side there's a moon, and so all of my kind of earth-centric decks I feel comfortable putting into this bag. And then altar cloths. So I have a whole bunch of different fabrics that I shift up for this table, and yes, the box fits in the bag. Yes, Spawn Spirit. So I put down fabric, and then rarely do I put down a cloth on top of that. But what I do use cloths for is when I'm traveling. So if I'm out, but the thing is, I'm kind of an ironing freak. This is one. So maybe I'll switch cameras and I can hold this up. So if I am where I live, I have to take a ferry to the mainland, and I love to shuffle cards when I'm on the ferry. And I'm not going to put my cards on a dirty table. So I take an altar cloth with me. So this one is the one that goes with that bag I just showed you. So I use that one. And I've got a couple here. This one has been very handy. So this is a newer one. This one came with the Botanica Tarot, right? It's just like a kerchief. It's light. It doesn't crease as much. And I don't have any other ones here to show you. So what I do when I'm traveling is I have a smaller one that I take with me. And then I feel like my cards are protected. There's something between the public table and myself. And if I was doing readings at a coffee shop or something, I definitely would use a cloth on the table. There's just, I feel like I like to protect my cards. I do let other people touch my cards, but not so much as I used to. I used to be a little more generous in that way, but I feel a little more protective of my cards these days. Like, I don't know if that's a good thing. And then the last tarot cliche was, you have a tarot deck in your purse or your bag or your man bag. Yes, I always have a deck with me, sometimes more than one deck with me. And if I don't have a new deck, so often the new deck will travel with me. And so what I do when I put my, Amber, please don't bark, sweetheart. So what I do is, if it comes in a box, I don't want to bang up the corners on the box. And then in that case, I want to protect the box. And so if I am putting a bag in, if I'm putting a box in my purse, it's definitely going to go into a bag to protect the box. And so, yeah. Or if I like to take the tin decks. So I have about 6 of the decks in tins, and those easily travel with me. But the trouble with the tinned decks, so these ones, the ones that come in tins, is that sometimes these lids come off and then your cards fall all over your bag. So I usually tend to put these in a bag as well too. And I made a pattern. So I also make bags. Do I have one of my bags here? I do not. I made a pattern for small decks, and that pattern fits these ones as well too. Because when I cut my Llewellyn, trimmed Llewellyn is really, really tiny, and I needed a bag for my Indie Anna K, because that is also a smaller deck. And I don't like the deck to be swimming in a huge bag. So yeah. So those are some of the tarot cliches that I resonate with, and I don't really feel like they're cliches. That's who I am. That's who I am, and I feel like that word kind of has a negative connotation, but I celebrate all these things every day in every way. Yeah. So if you have any other questions, let me know. I'm just kind of scanning the table to see if there's anything here I missed. This is a rock that I found. To me, it looks like some kind of a fossil. Yeah. I'm always looking for, I think that, so I didn't finish my sentence, but I think that's why I like septarians so much. Any of the crystals that make me feel like I'm going back thousands or millions of years. Can I put a card comparison to your list? Of course you can, Joel. Okay, and so Ijime, I forget what her channel name is. She said, Sadhana, you haven't done a card comparison for a long time. You need to get back to doing that. So yes, please prompt me and I will do some, because I have some on my table that I really want to do. And maybe I could do one today. Maybe I can do one today. I'll see if I can do that. I have a reading now. What time is it? Yes, I have a reading now. I need to sign off, but please. Yes, so Joel, you can message me through my website. You can put it in the chat right now if you get it in quickly, and I will write it down. Oh, for that. Oh, sorry. Not deck comparison, but card comparison. Okay, Devil and the Eight of Swords. Okay, for some reason I don't have that. So I also have, not only do I have journals, I have notebooks. I have notebooks with all this other stuff in it, like the planning and things for my videos. Devil and the Eight of Swords. Devil and the Eight of Swords. Okay. Are any of you watching that series, my Tuesday morning series? Okay. So, Eight of Swords and the Devil. Yes. I will put these two cards out and then I will add it to the list. Does anybody else have a request? Where are you? Let me know, because I'm happy to. Okay, so Joel, your request is in. I'm going to put these cards over here and then I will add them to my sheet. I have a feeling somebody else has requested that same pair. So thank you for the prompt. And so what I was talking about was deck comparisons. I haven't done a deck comparison video in ages. And so I definitely want to do one of those this weekend because I used to love making those. Love peering into people's lives. Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and maybe I will see you again in a couple of days. Take good care of yourselves. And I appreciate all your kind words as well, too. Namaste.